What's happening, people? Welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast, this time episode 40. Today, I'm joined by two guests and my two co-hosts. Firstly, Luke, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you very much for having me on my own channel. I appreciate it.
I love it. It's good to have you on your channel. Winnie, how are you doing? Nice to have you back.
I know, mate. Yeah, it's been. I've missed a few, but I've chose a good one to come back on, haven't I? Let's be honest.
Yeah, you definitely have. The end of season review. It's always an important one, and it happens once a year. Hollie, it's great to have you on. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hollie, it's great to have you on again. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's been quite nice to have a little break, but I'm ready to delve into Spurs once again. I need another therapy session. I think it's been too long.
Definitely, 100% agree with you there. Wes, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I think I'm like everybody else in the country at the minute, absolutely sweltering and trying to deal with the heat. But yeah, this is promising to be a good show, so very much looking forward to it, definitely.
Good to hear. Johnny says, hello to my dearest trophy yellow smilingless enemies. Well, as far as I know, Arsenal didn't win a trophy this season either, Johnny, but finished second in a one-horse race. But we'll end with that anyway, because if we're going to focus on Spurs today, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our competition on the Twitter page to win the brand new Spurs home shirt. If you follow the steps there, go to Park Lane Podcast on Twitter. What a giveaway. Don't say we don't do anything for you, but no, next target, was it 800? So let's go smash it. The channel's had a great week. So yeah, let's crack into it, shall we? And Luke, I'm going to come to you best. With your overall thoughts on the season. If you could use one word to sum up the whole season, what would it be?
I haven't got one word for you, let's be honest. Do you know what? I've been waiting for this episode, and no wonder I decided not to host it, mate. It's been an absolute train wreck as start to bloody finish. It's just been awful appointment of Antonio Conte, washed over by a top four finish last season, sacking him and trying to save money and putting Stellini in charge, awful. Ryan Mason to the end of the season, dreadful. I'm just so glad it's over, and I'm just waiting for Big Ange. I just can't wait for him.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So what one word, Luke? Or did you dodge the question?
Dreadful.
There you go, dreadful. Okay, take that. Winnie, can you sum up that season with just one word?
My word would be frustrating, I think, because we know what we're capable of because we've hit those heights of a Champions League final, etc. Coming close to winning the Premier League, so we know we've got it in us. But for the season just gone, whatever happened, just poor decisions all round, managerial, tactical, just situational. Everything was just poor. So yeah, frustrating would be my word, mate.
Yeah, no, thank you. Time added on's word is disastrous. So there you go. That's the new one there. Hollie, can you use one word about that crazy season, an unexpected season?
I would say mess. It had it all. It had more than what EastEnders has weeks at the Mo.
Yeah, absolutely did. It was this crazy season. Wes, can you use one word about that season?
I'm going to go underwhelming, I think. We had quite a bit of promise at the start of the season, obviously coming off the high of finishing in the top four last season. Crazy to think that we actually made our best ever start to a Premier League season at one point. And then I think, sort of post-World Cup, it was just one disaster after another, really. But there was some positives in there as well. I don't think it was all massively doom and gloom. But yeah, I just think it was a long slog as well of the season. And yeah, I'd definitely say underwhelming is my word.
Okay, thank you. The next question, some people would turn around and say it's quite obvious. I think it's got to be asked anyway. It's always an important question. It always gets asked in the end of season review. But who's been your player of the season? I think I know the answer. But Luke, go for it.
Do you know what? If he didn't get injured, I probably would have gone for somebody like Bentancur, to be honest. But, it's probably going to be a resounding Harry Kane. Do you know what I mean? Without his goals this season, not that we would play with 10 men. I hate that stupid line that people talk about online. But, we would be in a far worse position. But if without his injury, then I would have probably gone for Bentancur, to be honest.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Fans forget about Bentancur because obviously that being out injured for that long period of time. Winnie, who's your player of the season?
Mine is plain and simple. It's Harry Kane. Like I honestly, like I can't get out of my head how much love I have for this guy, and if it genuinely will break me if what could happen this summer. But yeah, I mean, similar to Luke, to be fair, Bentancur would have been a great shout because I think he was just going on strength to strength. So, he was really hitting form. So it's a shame that he got injured, and we've got him to look forward to coming back hopefully pre-season, ready for the new season. But yeah, Harry Kane for me all day. This season he's had scoring. If it wasn't for Haaland being an absolute robot, then he would have also got he'd have got the golden boot. So yeah, Harry Kane all day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's spot on, Winnie. Hollie, your player of the season, if I must ask.
I mean, I wanted to try and be clever and think of someone else, but it is Harry Kane. He's literally had the biggest backpack all season carrying us. So yeah, without him, I dread to think where we would have been without his goals, because his goals, I would say, have pretty much saved us from an even worse fate even to where we could have been at the end of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the man has definitely carried us this season. That's been the positive thing. It's fair to say he's given absolutely everything, and even he couldn't quite get us into Europe. Next one is a little bit of a difficult question that myself, when get asked from Rover fans, tend to try and dodge. But I want to know if there's a different opinion on this. Luke, would you call a Richarlison a flop for this season?
Yeah, I think 100% you have to look at it and think that it hasn't gone well. But I also think that you have to also, counteract that argument and say that, we were stifled so much in terms of how to play football, how to, play any kind of game that suits any of the players that we have. Playing a defensive line and then trying to stick a guy who, is more of a, I would claim, poacher type of player. Now, at the start of this season, I always said that Richarlison would get approximately 5 to 7 goals this season. That was my aim. Now, obviously, he got a lot less than that. I think he had 1, which was barely 1. But, I think that you can't judge him too much based on Antonio Conte, and I hope we don't get too much talk on Antonio Conte because I'm ready to absolutely tear him a new one, to be quite honest.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to get started on that just yet. Winnie, is Richarlison a flop for you, or is that the wrong word?
Do you know what? I'm probably going to go against the grain here and say no, purely because I think that not only has he been stifled for for minutes and stuff like that. I don't think he's. People will go about minutes, but it's also starts as well. Because playing football myself, if you're coming into a game, even at a very, very low standard, which I play, if you're coming into a game at 60, 70 minutes, it's difficult to make any kind of impact. I think you'd have to be like a Harry Kane type player to make an impact on a game like that. But I'm probably just going to be controversial just for the sake of it. But I think I'm not going to call him a flop. He's definitely been disappointing. I was expecting better, but I probably wouldn't use the word flop on this occasion. And hopefully next season we will see what we was expecting this season.
Let's hope so. Wes, is Richarlison a flop?
Well, firstly, I'm going to answer the Player of the Year question because I don't think I got asked. To be honest, Harry, Luke, he's got to get the sack for that one. My player of the year. Player of the year for me has probably got to be Harry Kane. As everybody's mentioned, the work that he's done for the team this year has just been phenomenal. And to bag 30 goals for us and nobody bat an eyelid just says a lot about him in the standards that he set himself, over the time that he's been with us. I would totally agree with Luke in saying that Bentancur was up there. I also think Romero was wicked this season. In terms of consistency, I think he was probably up there in terms of one of our most consistent performers if you look at it over a season and not just individual games. Back to Richie, do I think he's a flop? It's an interesting one. I wouldn't use the term flop. I'd just say it's been an underwhelming signing. But I think the reason why I say that is because we've spent a lot of money on him. But Richarlison's best work for us is when he's come off the bench and made an impact. But the thing is, when Tottenham spend £60 million on a player, they can't be an impact player. They have to be the nuts, pretty much. They have got to be something special. But I think that's probably where it's, not quite. I think everybody looks at the transfer and, he spent 60 million on him. He hasn't really scored and things like that. But, as I think Winnie said, it's difficult for him to come on and really do something, especially at the state of the game in which he's coming on to all the time. So, I don't think flop is the right word. I would just say underwhelming. Because I think everybody was so excited by him. Obviously, he's got a wicked song as well, which can get proper going in the stands. But I'm looking forward to seeing him a little bit more next season. But then, if I remember rightly, he did struggle in his first year at Everton, and then pretty much came good after that. So it could be a case of he just needed a bit of time to settle into the team and the environment, and then hopefully, this coming season with Big Ange, we might be onto something a little bit, something good. But no, I do really, really like Richarlison. He is the player that you didn't know you needed until he's rocked up at your club, because he just does things that you wish a lot more players in our team did. He's literally like Eric Lamela in the fact that he just upsets people and kicks people. But then goes down and, wins us free kicks in dangerous positions and all of this kind of stuff, which I didn't really realise I needed it until I got it with Richie. So like I say, I'm looking forward to seeing him hopefully a little bit more next season.
Can I say one thing, sorry, on that, Wes, because that was one of the Conte that, I said a lot when we signed Richarlison was that I was expecting not goals from him. What I was expecting was him and Romero in the team. I was expecting Conte to build this shithouse team, right? That we're going to wind up opposition, and that's exactly what I thought he would do: was win free kicks in dangerous positions, and then allow us to be able to, utilize set pieces and things like that. And the only worry for me moving forward, and I don't want to talk too much because I think next week we're going to talk a lot more about Big Ange, but is where he fits into that Big Ange team, because it's very much the opposite of that. Very much, works focused and and high intensity and pressing, and a lot of the things that he may be able to develop, but he's much more of a frustrating player. Looking back to the game against Nottingham Forest when they absolutely booted him for doing PPS, and things like that. That's what I was expecting under Conte. Do you know what I mean, Wes? But what do you think about that?
I still think there's a place for Richarlison in an Ange Postecoglou team. Looking at their front line, when I have watched Celtic, obviously they do press really, really high, and I think Richarlison's got that capability to do that as well. He gives good energy high up the pitch, which I think Ange will want. It will be interesting to see actually if Ange decides to drop Kane a little bit deeper and play him as a 10. And then, potentially look at getting Kane and Richarlison both in the start in a lineup. Each week, but I definitely think there's a place for him. Again, you look at Celtic and the sort of forwards that they've had in Ange's time. You look at someone like Kyogo, who's bagged 34 goals this season, but last season was almost competing for a place with Giakoumakis, who's now gone to Atlanta. And even out wide, there seems to be good competition for places there, or there was competition for places in Ange's Celtic side. Someone like Jota wasn't always playing yet. The fans absolutely love and adore him. And I know Ange loves and adores him as well. So, it's competition for places. It's all good. I think it's healthy. I think it's something that we need. And I do think Richarlison will get some good good props and some good flowers, if you like, under Big Ange. As next season progresses.
No, absolutely. Thank you both. Well, I've got attention of people in the chat. There's quite a few of you watching along. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the giveaway or competition, if you like, that we're doing on the Twitter page, Park Lane Podcast, to win the brand new home shirt for next season, which was released in the week. So yeah, go check that out if you want the brand new Spurs shirt. All you have to do is follow the steps. Go to Twitter, Park Lane Podcast. Hollie, is flop the right word for Richarlison here?
I kind of agree with everyone in a sense that I think it's the price tag. If the price tag wasn't so high, we probably wouldn't even having this conversation. I think that over his head is why rivals say it's a flop, because it's the goals that matter. And obviously he hasn't got many of those goals. But I feel like he's still a good player for us. I think he brings that bit of attitude, like Luke was saying, that we've needed at Spurs. And I'm hoping, I know you're going to talk about Ange next week, but I'm hoping under Ange we can kind of get that culture back, and having a bit of fire in Richarlison, I think will help that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, I completely agree with you guys in terms of the reason we're having this discussion is because of the price tag. But Johnny's in the chat, so I want to see what he thinks about this. But Jesus, who at the start of the season, Arsenal went on about how he's going to be their best player, the most influential player, has gone missing at the best of times. And I don't really think he's had a better season for Richarlison. At the end of the day, they've, like us, have won no trophies. He hasn't. I could get told, how he's going to be the best ever Arsenal striker. He's going to be the best Arsenal player. If we're talking about flops, then for me, Jesus has to be also in that discussion. But for me, with Richarlison, flop is the wrong word, because he's played under 3 managers, 1 permanent and 2 interim this season. He hasn't quite found the right position for him yet. He's played as a number 9. He's played just behind, just in front of Kane. He's played either side to him on the wing. He's also had a couple of injury problems as well. So I think we're having this conversation this time next year under Postecoglou. Hopefully we can go that he fits into the team. He scored more goals. He's a lot better. But people are very, very quick to judge. And it's still, even with Porro, he's only been here since January. Fans are already saying like he's the worst defender we've ever had. Let's get him out of the club. So I call for patience personally in this situation. But I want to move on to the best signing of the season, because I'm guilty of myself sitting here a little bit later this time last year going that is an 8 or 9 out of 10 window, and it's enough challenge for the league. And I think our first 9 or 10 fixtures where we had the best start ever to a season suggested that and backed up that point. But I don't know quite what went wrong. But Hollie, coming to you first, who is your signing of the season?
To be honest with you, I don't really know, because like we've spoken about, like we've all said, and I'm guilty to it, I thought it was going to be a great window. And like you said, the way we started last season, after that high of pipping, obviously Arsenal to top 4, I was like, this is brilliant. But yeah, it slowly went downhill. Well, I say slowly, it went downhill quite fast. But I don't know. I don't think I can sit here and say, yeah, they were a great signing. Like we've said before, Kane is the one that's carried this massive backpack, and you could probably say he's carried the new boys with him. So it's a difficult one. I'm gonna sit on the fence and not say anyone and pass it on for somebody else to say.
I like that tactic.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're not the only one who likes to do that in here. No, I'm not going to name anyone. Wes, who is your signing of the season?
Okay. Yeah, I like this question a lot, actually. I've got 2, and I'll explain why. Pre-World Cup, I'm going Perisic. I thought he was absolutely ace pre-World Cup. The deliveries into the box. I think we scored quite a few goals from set pieces as well. And I thought, yeah, I could see why he was brought to the football club, his mentality and everything like that. And you thought, yeah, he could really bring on somebody in particular like Ryan Sessegnon, and have a real sort of positive impact on us. However, post World Cup, it looked like he was showing his age a little bit, I think, and was getting caught out a little bit too often. I would say post World Cup signing of the season has to be Big Fraser Forster. I think he has been a blessing in disguise for us, and actually, I think a lot of fans who have watched us when he's been in goal feel a lot more comfortable when he's in goal compared to Lloris, especially with the ball at his feet. He's made some big saves at important times in games. So that is my reason why I have 2 kind of signings of the season.
Okay, fair enough. Luke, who's your signing of the season?
Well, first of all, my flop of the season is probably Ivan Perisic, to be quite honest, or what I like to call him is Conte's lapdog. No doubt he goes this summer, and good riddance, in my opinion. I think that what you expect from a World Cup finalist, what you expect from an incredible player of his pedigree, I don't personally believe we got.
But his stats, though, look at his stats. How many assists did he get? I reckon he racked up. Was it double figures? It's got to have been nearly.
His crosses were fantastic as well, especially before that World Cup.
The only thing that he was good at was every so often a half decent corner, and our corner routines are down to our set piece coach. I'm not having it. I'm not having any of it.
Luke, we were starved of a half decent corner for God knows how long because all the players that we had couldn't beat the first man.
Yeah, fair enough. But the thing was, right, when he was then told to go in a more advanced role for times when we needed him, which is his preferred position, he was absolutely pants. Anyway, moving on. Signing of the season, has to be Forster, 100%. I think that there are always some negatives with him, and that'll be his ability to get down low. I think that he still struggles with that. And, he's probably not far off my age, to be quite fair, but I'm not sure how easy it is to get down low these days. But I just think that he stepped up when he needed to, and he did make some crucial saves at times when they were needed. And at a time when Lloris let in 5 in Newcastle, and then suffered an injury that set him out for the rest of the season, just says it all, really, doesn't it? And as much as I like Hugo Lloris and I thank him for his time at Spurs, as one man used to say, God rest his soul, on AFTV, it is time to go.
He did indeed say that. Wynnie, who's your signing of the season?
If I'm honest, I'm probably gonna have to sit on the fence a little bit with Hollie, because do you know what? But purely because I don't think anyone stood out. I don't think I couldn't pick one, because if I had to pick one, I probably would pick Forster, purely because he came in when we needed him and made an impact. I mean, other than that, I can't really pinpoint anyone else that did that. I think potential wise, I will look towards Pedro Porro, purely because I think that we have got a player in him if we use him correctly. Again, he's a right wing back, but if you put him in that position, he arrives late into the box. He's confident in front of goal. You don't get that with a wing back. How many times have we seen Reguilon, for example, arrive in the box late and end up skying it straight into Rosette? So potential wise, I'm going to say Pedro Porro. But if I had to pick a sign of the season, purely just Forster, because he was there when we needed him.
Absolutely. Before I mention my sign of the season, I'd just like to say to Johnny, he makes a point about Jesus is always going to be clear of Richarlison. Hollie just brought to my attention that Jesus scored the same amount of goals as Firmino. And we're talking about Firmino, who hardly played a game, hardly kicked a ball for Liverpool, apart from the final day. So, Johnny, I don't know what you're watching, but at the start of the season, I got all of Jesus is the signing of the season. I actually got told he was going to win the Golden Boot. He's going to score twice as many as Haaland. He's going to score more than Kane. Watch out, he's chasing Kane for the Golden Boot. So, Johnny, nothing to say to you there, I'm afraid.
I like how you threw Hollie under the bus. That's him. So, for those that don't know, we have a private chat on this channel that we can chat in whilst we're live. I think Hollie was just feeding you information, but you've just thrown her straight into the bus.
I have, because I've got to admit, I wanted to read that one out because I knew that Johnny was in the chat. But there you go. You now know if anyone who didn't know. But no, I have to sit with I hate sitting on the fence, and I'm not even going to use that word. But in terms of where Wynnie and Hollie stand on it, I think they're spot on. There's nobody that stood out here. But if we're going to have to pick someone, it's going to be Fraser Forster. He's come in. He's done what's asked of him. He hasn't made any mistakes, because Lloris is making mistake after mistake. He made 2 for the North London derby. Week in, week out, was a mistake from Lloris. The last one, I think, the last time was at St James's Park. We got taken off at half time. It's funny that we never saw him since. I personally don't think he'd kick another ball for us. Perisic, I don't know what Luke's smoking about. I don't think he's been fantastic. To be fair, but no, I don't agree with where you stand with that. I think what he offered before the World Cup, he offered quite a bit, and I think you're picking on the player. You've got so many players where we can sit here and go, we can pick on it, and you've chose one of about 10. But hey ho, it's like you do that with Romero, so I'm used to it by now. But moving on with the worst signing. So keeping that subject on the signings, Luke, I'll come back to you. I'm sure you have something to say about that. So who's your worst signing so far?
Yeah, you have Perisic without a doubt. I don't think there's any debate about that. I'm not even going to go into it in more detail.
So where were you up until the World Cup then? Did you watch this before the World Cup? Or were you still on holiday?
He was Conte's lapdog, and that's the only reason he was brought in. He was brought in to be a competent left wing.
Okay, so well, okay, but he's a proven winner. He's won trophies. It's another proven winner. You don't want to Tottenham. Yet you sit here going, "Oh, we need success." Blah 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 blah. You're turning down these winners.
Yeah, a proven winner that doesn't show up week in, week out. Like, I'm all about consistency. Like, when did we see consistent ability from a left wing back to be able to track back and tackle?
Okay, but your friend Postecoglou didn't turn up every week. They look at them at Celtic in the Champions League. They lost 4-1 to Young Boys.
Mate,
come on, Daniel Lee doesn't turn up every week either. Your next friend.
I'm not having that under here.
No, but they're 4-1 to Young Boys in the Champions League. In the Champions League, so there you go.
What's against Young Boys?
Doesn't matter. I'm not talking about us. That's irrelevant. Wynnie, who's your worst signing of the season?
I mean, again, it's the signings were just a bit meh, to be honest. I mean, if I had to pick, can I pick Longley? Because I mean, I know he's obviously only on loan, but does he count as a? Can I pick him?
Yes, you can pick him.
Yeah, because I mean, again,
I don't know why you picked him, but you can pick him.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, purely because again, there's nothing really. No one stood out. No one really made a negative impact. So I think we could all sit here and probably pick any of our signings as the worst or the best, to be perfectly honest. But just for the sake of this argument, I'll pick Longley because I think it was against Man City where he miscontrolled the ball and let someone run through and score. Yeah. So just for that reason, I'm going to pick him. There you go.
That's not
harsh.
Yeah, there we go.
That is harsh. That's not what I thought you were gonna say. But in terms of potential, you've got Porro, you've got Basuma, Basuma in particular, I think could be an absolute beast next season. You know, we're talking about Postecoglou who plays with 2 number 8s. Basuma suffered with a lot of injury problems, but I think he has bags of potential. We're talking about a player who everybody wanted at the time we signed him and for absolute steal from Brighton. So I'm convinced he will work out. And I think Porro, with the right manager, will. But yeah, so we shall see. Have I asked everyone about their worst sign of the season? Who haven't I done yet?
Me, but I'm going to say they're all pants anyway, so we can move on.
They are. So I think we can all agree with that. But Luke, I know how much you wanted me to bring this up. Not. Your thoughts on Conte's time at Tottenham? How good of a job did he do?
Oh no!
There we go.
I'm signing out. Right. See you later.
We're going to be here all night.
I'll be brief with it. Right? If we're going to rate it out of 10 over his tenure at Spurs, I would say 1 or 2, maybe. And
no, I'm not having that. Come on.
That's giving it a really generous rating, to be quite honest. I think that. Look, I think what you get with Antonio Conte is you're meant to get a proven winner, right? A guy who is tactically sound. Okay,
we have this conversation.
You're meant to get a proven winner. You're meant to get someone who's tactically sound. You're meant to get somebody who is able to defend well, to be able to counter-attack, to be able to score goals when they need it, and to be able to see out results. I would like, when it's not unlikely to happen, but I'd like everybody to give a time when they felt confident under Antonio Conte.
Last season.
It is very, very rare. The back end of last season, everybody else fell apart and we managed to do well and just pick.
Really? You think everyone else fell apart but Tottenham?
What's quite interesting is that a lot of Spurs fans get very angry at the ability that Spurs should see themselves as a top 4 team, or should see themselves as top 4 as being a trophy. Yet every single one of you that doubts me about the fact that Antonio Conte did well in that time believes that finishing top 4 last season is a real good result for Spurs. And so that just shows you the level at which, you know, we're at the moment. I think that Antonio Conte is a checkbook manager. I feel like he only does well when there is money pumped in. You know, we're talking about buying ready-made players at that point.
So why was he appointed, Luke? Who appointed him?
You know, of course, and it was a mistake, and that's why we, you know, and that's why for weeks and weeks and weeks I've backed Big Ange, because I believe financially, I believe tactically, I believe, you know, in terms of recruitment, I believe in every single aspect of what Big Ange is going to bring, and I'm happy to sit up here and be shot down when it all falls apart, which probably will happen.
Your tweets have been bookmarked. Don't worry. I put time aside in the week to do that.
What I do want to say is I'm very happy, Harry. Very happy, actually. You made my week this week in seeing you backtracking quite a lot on Twitter.
Well, we can talk about you backtracking, Luke. We can talk about you backtracking. Look at Romero. Someone was happy when we signed Romero. It sounds like someone's keen to get rid of him now. That's all I'm going to say. But no, I have backtracked a little bit with Postecoglou, but never did I sit here and say that I didn't want him. I said I'll back him regardless. So, yeah, we shall see about that. Say the least. Wynnie, your thoughts on Conte's time at Tottenham? Can you see? Were you watching Tottenham, unlike Luke last season and the start of the season?
Look, you know, he. I think he'd done very well to finish in the top 4 with what we had and the squad that he had. However, we just don't seem to work with these high profile managers that win trophies wherever they go. We thought we had it with Mourinho. He came and just upset the apple cart and completely ruined whatever kind of cohesion we had within the squad at the time. And then along comes Antonio Conte, who very similar again, wins everywhere he goes. We just and it, you know, ended the same with him. We just don't seem to do well with these high profile managers, which is why I wasn't too keen on Big Ange. But I must admit, I wish I'd have seen the light a bit sooner, Luke, like you, because I honestly think, I genuinely think we're going to go. We are going to go places with him. But in terms of Conte, I think we definitely overachieved. Now, whether that was down to Conte or whether that was down to the players, I don't know, because it doesn't look like Conte had too much of an influence or motivated the players. So it may have been the players that carried us to top 4 and not Conte. But that probably proves because of the season we've just had as well. So very frustrating, but I'm glad that we now have the back of him, and we've now seen the back of him, and hopefully we never see someone like that again, and we won't need to, hopefully, with Big Ange.
Okay, fair enough. And Luke, the last thing I will say to you is, for someone who sits here and goes, sits here and goes, top 4 is fantastic. Enoch has taken the club very, very far. Yet you're firing shots at Conte for getting us top 4. So is that backtracking?
Right, sorry, last part on this, because obviously I want the guys below to have a go much for this, but I don't think that Antonio Conte, first of all, getting us top 4 is disastrous from him. I just believe that it's not anything better than what we have ever achieved before. I don't think he did anything special, and I completely agree with what Wynnie said in terms of who actually got us top 4 last season.
You think these are these players?
I definitely believe in players, because as you can see from many, many times under Antonio Conte, it only ever ends one way. And it ends the way that it ended at Spurs. It just so happened it was just slightly premature of normal. But look, people can believe what they want about Antonio Conte. People can believe anything they want about anybody. I believe that Spurs have achieved well over the years. I believe that we have been stifled by our current owners. I don't believe that they're 100% to blame, but I do believe that some of the recruitment of managers, some of the recruitment of players has been poor over the years. And I hope that now we have a manager which meets our philosophy, that this may end up in something well. Because, you know, let's look back at those two managers. Both Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho are both managers that don't meet our philosophy. That don't meet our owner's philosophy. They don't meet.
That's why it's a poor appointment. So do you agree with me that it's a poor appointment?
Oh, yeah,
They've won everywhere else but Tottenham.
I've never doubted their
coincidence.
No, I've never once said they weren't good appointments.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to continue. I'll let that go there. You continued for another day, so tune in for future episodes. I'm sure. Hollie, what do you make of Conte's time at Tottenham? Were you watching Spurs?
To be honest, I wish I wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. After Jose, I kind of obviously we all want Spurs to do well. I thought Jose was going to be the man. He nearly was the man, but got sacked a couple of days prior a final. That's old hat. With Conte, I thought he was going to do well, and I probably put my hands up and say, not saying I didn't want him to go, but it is getting to the time now. Right, okay, maybe we need to move on. But the thing that annoyed me, and I know Luke's mentioned it, is the fact that Stellini then took in charge, and for me that was really strange because if a manager gets sacked, the whole staff leave. So for me, it was almost like Conte was put on gardening leave at a cheaper rate to be able to keep Stellini in. So yeah, I think it naturally came to an end. And I was annoyed because, again, if we're going to go down this route of getting in a manager that can win anywhere he goes, why not give him what he wants? And clearly we knew that wasn't from the off. But then to do it again, it was kind of to save face in the sense that we brought in Nuno quickly. Let's save face and put Conte in. So, yeah, it naturally came to an end. And I'm hoping now that we've learned from our lessons because, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ange. I wanted Nagelsmann, but that was kind of done and dusted when they didn't let him bring who he wanted to bring across. But listening to Ange, we've got a massive problem at Spurs, not just the players, but the whole club and the ethos of it at the moment. We have no direction. So to bring in someone that speaks really well, feels like he connects with the fans, I'm really excited for it. And we just have to be really patient because let's be real, we've been patient for so long. Surely another couple of years isn't going to hurt us that long if it means something good's going to come. But with Luke, I don't know how he saw the light so early on, but fair play, credit. I'm looking forward to it. Let's put it that way. I don't want any more therapy sessions. I'm done with these therapy sessions. So yeah.
Yeah, you're certainly not the only one, Hollie. There, absolutely. Wes, what do you make of Conte's time at Tottenham in that miracle in getting us top four last season that hasn't been mentioned yet?
Have to say, I'm a bit gutted, if I'm honest. I look at what Conte took over in terms of the state of the club and the state of the team and what he achieved last season. I thought it was brilliant. Nobody gave us a hope in hell's chance of getting top four. And between him, his staff and the players, I think the key thing was that he got everybody on side pretty much straight away. Fans were buzzing that we had him, everything like that. And then, I was at the Etihad last season, unbelievable performance. I was at Old Trafford last season. Again, a really good performance despite the result. And I think, Liverpool away again last season, really, really good performance and a decent result considering Anfield is a massive bogey ground for us. So I started to get that belief that actually, as a team, we can compete in big games away from home, which is something we struggled with massively. Granted, we didn't always get those results in those big games, but if you look at the performance on the whole, we competed in all of those games. And I think, the United game in particular, really unlucky not to get a point out of that. Liverpool, we did get a point. City, I don't think anybody has done that at the Etihad in recent times. And, obviously between him and Paratici, the signings of Bentancur and Kulusevski were at the time, masterstrokes. And everybody was praising us and everybody in the media was saying how those two players effectively got us into the top four and allowed us to get there. And we strengthened when we needed to at that point. We then come into this season and it's looking like, Conte's getting in some of the players that he was looking to get in. And we were getting a lot of business done early. You see the players in pre-season getting absolutely put through their paces. And you're thinking, geez, I'm as much as I'd love to be in those players' position, at the same time, I'm kind of glad I'm not, and things like that. But I think the big thing, and I know Hollie kind of mentioned it there in terms of, with Mourinho is it's not necessarily giving these managers what they want, because I always believe they know what they're signing up for, but it's allowing them the opportunity to operate how they would like and giving them what they need. And people mentioned the fact that both of them didn't get backed is interesting, because Levy can turn around and say, well, I gave Mourinho had 10, 11 players. Whether he wanted them or not, Levy's going to say, well, that's by the by. I gave you these players. And Conte had quite a bit and quite a few players as well. Again, whether he wanted them or not is, for Levy, it's neither here or there. But I think that the thing is with those two, it's like we were after certain players and we almost got the fourth, the fifth option. And I think that's where, when you work with managers like a Mourinho and a Conte, you can't get away with that. You might be able to get away with it with one or two, but when it becomes so much more than those one or two, that's where problems start to lie. And I completely agree with Hollie. It definitely got to that point in the season where it was like, do you know what? It's probably best that we all just kind of part ways. But listen, I would have loved Conte to have stayed. I think he had the fans in particular almost where he wanted them. I think we were all pretty much on side with him from the moment he walked through the door. I don't know what happened in between. I think after the World Cup in particular, I think his rant against Southampton, from a fan point of view, you look at it and go, he's absolutely spot on. But, when you look at the bigger picture of it, you go, well, half of it probably should have been kept behind closed doors, and you thrash that out in a meeting. On the Monday morning with Levy and the players, and things like that. I think Luke's rating on Conte's time is very harsh. Because, like I say, he took over a broken team and a broken fan base and reunited and got everybody on side very, very quickly. I am, like I say, really gutted that it didn't work out. But the biggest gripe I had with Conte, and Luke's probably going to be like buzzing about this point, is it always felt like he was doing us a favour, because we were only ever one defeat away from it being a total disaster and him walking. It wasn't like he was going to get the sack; he was going to walk after any defeat. And I think his press conferences, there was always something in them, but. I look at City and Burnley last season, like we beat City and we put in an absolute worldy performance, and he's saying this is the best group of players I've ever worked with. We then lose to Burnley in typical Tottenham fashion away from home, and then he's questioning himself and whether he's the right man for the job. So it was really conflicting messages, and I think that's probably what got through to the players in the end, and ultimately led to him not seeing out his full contract. But yeah, like I say, I was gutted that it didn't work out, because I saw somebody on the touchline that had that passion and that fire and the will to win and succeed at the football club. I think Mourinho had it in fits and starts. I think Mourinho wore the badge, but I didn't see that real fire that he had at Chelsea and Real Madrid in particular. Whereas Conte, it was like, wow, like it looked like from the sideline, he was a manager that you would walk to play for. And as soon as that phone call was made and Antonio Conte wants you, they're going, yeah, get me there. I don't care how it's going to work. I don't care how it's just got to happen. So yeah, like I say, really, really gutted with Conte's time. If I was to give it a number and a figure, I'd probably go with sort of a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10, because there was a lot of things that he potentially could have done, and we could have done, but it just wasn't to be.
No, absolutely. I agree with a lot of what you said there, Wes. For me, I hold my hands up because I get called out for this a lot. I was the first one to say that we should part ways with Conte just because of that toxic feel towards the end. He the way he was in press conferences. But I really, really wanted him to succeed, and I will continue to highlight last season. I think he pulled off the miracle. And seriously, I think we can sit here talking about huge achievements that clubs have made, like whether it's Newcastle getting Champions League, Brighton getting into Europe. I don't think ours getting into top 4 is that far away whatsoever, because when he came in, we're talking about a broken club, from Mourinho and past managers where the club's just broken in the bottom half of the table, and to take us into Champions League football. And I'm sorry, but I'm not buying the other team fell away. They fell away because we played them and we beat them. and we made them fall apart because we were too good. So for me, if I had to give, however, I sit here and go, Conte was part of the problem because he couldn't take responsibility for his own tactics, his substitution. So he's definitely part of the problem, and that is just true. For me, if I had to give it a statistic, I'm thinking a 7.5 out of 10, just because of the miracle he pulled off last season. So that's a complete contrast in numbers. I think even that is, I think that's the lowest. I can probably go with that. But
that's brave. That's brave. That is, hey, 7.5.
I'm going for 7.5 because I think he pulled off a miracle that not even Luke's friend Ange could pull off. Right now, I think it's an incredible achievement. So I really think it's up there. But Wynnie, coming back to you, so with the Stellini appointment, one, could you understand the appointment? And two, why didn't it work?
I can tell you why it didn't work. It didn't work because it was the exact same. Everything was the same as it was with Conte. It was just without Conte screaming and shouting on the sideline. That's why it didn't work. Again, it's been said on here already. When the manager goes, the staff go with them. So to see Stellini still at the helm, and it was almost as if I read somewhere that Conte granted like a little goodbye gift. It was almost like, okay, fair enough, I'm going to leave, but I will leave you Stellini just to see out the rest of the season. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. And it, like I say, it didn't work because it was nothing changed. The tactics didn't change. Formation didn't change. The motivation, the pressing, nothing was different. So that's why it didn't work under Stellini. And I think they realised after a couple of games that it was a mistake. So it was silly. It made no sense. And I don't think anyone can sit there and say it made sense. So
fair enough. Hollie, do you understand the Stellini appointment? In like, if you look at it, can you understand it at all, or is it just crazy?
I think it's just like I said in terms of, and like Winnie's just pointed out, that the fact that when a manager's sacked, everyone leaves. It's very rarely that anybody stays, unless your name's Mason. But in terms of it just didn't make sense. I think Conte was put on gardening leave. They were, look, can you just stay away? Don't worry, we'll pay out the rest of your contract, but we're not paying you any more to sack you. And that meant that Stellini was then put in charge. That's the only way I can make any sense of it, because to anybody else and to everyone, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Luke, where'd you stand with this?
Yeah, I think it makes complete sense, and it's pretty simple. Like, it was just financially motivated, 100%. To sack off, or as Hollie said, to put him on gardening leave costs a lot less than to sack his entire backroom staff, and that's all it was. And there's nothing more to it, or nothing.
Okay, Luke, let me put this another way. Do you criticise or do you support Daniel Levy's decision to put Stellini as interim acting head coach it was going to be till the end of the season? So do you support his decision?
No, of course I don't. Like, that would be suicide to support a decision that ultimately was the wrong decision. But I'll point the finger at anybody in this in this chat tonight and say, I bet any one of the people here asked the question, can Stellini be the next permanent Spurs manager? Because that conversation was had, and it was had on every single Tottenham Hotspur platform across the world. It just ended a lot sooner than it.
What went wrong?
Well, what went wrong was that he isn't his own person. He is, again, another person.
Hang on. I've got you here. You said that Stellini is not all to do with, so he's not his own person, right? So when he won that game, when he stepped in, when Conte was having his gallbladder surgery, so you saying that was all those victories and that amazing run was all down to Conte, who you didn't want to be here and don't want to even say his name. Is that right?
Yeah, it still doesn't change the rating of Antonio Conte, though, because I still think that victory against Preston North End in the FA Cup is nothing to write home about.
That's one of about 8 victories, but okay. What about City? Beat City at home 1-0 again.
We always beat City. It's a given.
Okay, we won't next season. Promise you. Come back to this. We're not beating City next season. Completely contrasting style. Defensive managers beat Pep. Ange does not beat Pep. Yeah,
I love you calling
come back to that. Come back to that. No.
Oh, man. Spurs it don't matter who's the manager. Gosh. You back Spurs to win every game. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. I just don't think we will. To be fair to you, Wes. So so Stellini put in charge as acting head coach. I do agree in terms of it made sense and financially, and it felt like Conte was on gardening leave. But for me, anyway, I don't know how Levy ever thought it was going to work till the end of the season, because for me, Wes, I don't know how you feel about this, but it felt like Conte's still here, just without Conte's proven winner experience, knowledge, and know-how in games, and that's what it felt like to me. So it was like Conte's still here with these tactics, but he not that knowledge that Levy didn't have. So where do you stand with that?
Yeah, Harry, I just need a minute because I've just heard an absolutely wild claim on the channel that only defensive coaches beat Pep Guardiola. Mauricio Pochettino beat Pep Guardiola both home and away.
Yeah, but he struggled.
I don't think anybody would call him.
No.
You are live in 4K stating that defensive managers beat Pep Guardiola. Mauricio Pochettino.
I think so. Mourinho has an excellent record against Pep. No, but okay, come back to this next season.
No. It's a fact. I'm going full Rafa. It's a fact.
Coming back to this,
beaten Pep, but I wouldn't say that. I don't think anybody in the world would say Poch is a defensive manager, but he's beaten Pep Guardiola.
Okay, but he hasn't done it as many times as Mourinho has.
He's still done it though.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Pochettino's done it a good few times. Even did it in Spain. So do you know what I mean? When Pep was in charge of Barca and Poch was.
I went to 3 or 4 occasions where we got absolutely thumped by City because we went for the game.
Listen, I was there when we lost 5-1 twice in 3 years at home to City, and they had about 500 million on the bench. But I'm just going off your point and saying that there's an attacking manager out there in the world, and there have been attacking managers. You even look at Thomas Tuchel, who's beaten Pep Guardiola. Again, wouldn't regard him as a defensive coach. So I'm just throwing that one out there for you. But yeah, in terms of Stellini, it was interesting when he stepped in for the games. I think a lot of the prep work was probably done, and it was a case of take care of business on the day. So I don't think there was potentially too much that would have been different. I think the biggest thing that I think as a fan that we saw in those games was actually that we were a bit more proactive and, going to win the ball a little bit higher. But other than that, that was about it. I felt for him in the respect that he couldn't necessarily change too much tactically, because a lot of the players that he would have been able to do that with were injured at the time. So he kind of had to revert back to type. I think obviously the Newcastle game absolutely killed him. And that looked like it was a case of the players had found out an hour before kickoff that we were playing with a 4 at the back. And even though they'd worked on a back 3 all week in training. So yeah, listen, like I say, the Newcastle game really, really killed him. And I think it was at that point the players definitely just down tools and was like, nah, I don't really fancy this. I've had enough. And yeah, unfortunately, he was the one to get the sack. But like I said, I don't think he could have changed too much because we didn't really have a left back. Because Davis and Sessegnon were injured. Reguilon's out on loan. Edoji's out on loan. So it had to be Perisic to somehow play there, or we play with a back 3. And everybody was sick of us playing a back 3 and said that we needed to play a back 4. So I think that's, just little things like that, I think sort of killed him a little bit. I think obviously, I know Bentancur was missing for a little bit under Conte anyway, but when you are an interim manager and you would like to have certain players available to you, and if you are going to change it, you want your better players available to you, and I don't think he really had it, and I think he was dealt a pretty rough card at the same time. But yeah, it was a strange appointment in the first place. But yeah, once he was in there, you're thinking, right, what can he do? And I don't think he could have done overly a lot different, if that makes sense.
Harry, you've muted yourself. Probably talking too much waffle.
How dare you? You're not coming to you next then. Hollie, what do you make of Ryan Mason's short period in charge? I personally have my opinion about this, but I want to know what you think about it.
I just think he just needs to go learn his trade elsewhere. The only thing he knows is Tottenham, and I think he will become a good manager. But in terms, he needs to go and find his own identity because all he knows is Tottenham. And I just think every time it's the easy way out, something doesn't go right, we'll just slot Mason in for a few weeks and everything will be fine. So for me, he just needs to go find his trade elsewhere, whether that be Championship, whether that be lower. Then maybe because he is still very young, so he needs to go and learn his craft. Basically, that's what I think.
Okay, fair enough. Luke, what do you make of that? What do you make of Ryan Mason's short spell in charge? Since you so wanted to get rid of Conte.
I think that Ryan Mason, he's a nice guy, and what he's been through in his career being cut so short as a professional footballer, and him then being offered an opportunity at Spurs, with the academy, and then being brought in through Jose Mourinho and so on. I can't give him any bad credit whatsoever. He's a young lad, and if I was in the same position as him, I'm going to be honest with you. This week at work, I offered myself for a promotion I knew I wouldn't get. But the thing is you have to be in it to win it. You have to be able to put yourself forward and to be able to say, do you know what? I back my own ability, and I back the ability that.
Why do you think you've not done that? Do you think Mason didn't do that then?
Wait, just chill. Let's just
get the question. Watching the question.
So I think that I can't say to him that he's done a bad job because of the naivety and the fact that he is so young. But I do wish him the best, and I don't really. I've seen a lot on Twitter this week and saying that he should go elsewhere and he should get other work and he should try it in the Championship and so on, and maybe he should. But I think maybe another stint, with another coaching setup might do him some good because, what we're forgetting about is that he's learned under Jose Mourinho, he's learned a style under Antonio Conte, and then hopefully he'll learn a style under Big Ange. And so what you've got then is you've got a triple threat of different abilities. You can say, do you know what? For my team, it's going to work differently this way. For this team, because I haven't got the right amount of players, it's going to work differently this way. Like, Wes knows better than anyone, mate. Like, when you play Football Manager and you haven't got the players, you can't play that formation. Do you know what I mean? You've got to tweak those tactics. You've got to change it a little bit to suit the players that you've got in your squad. And I don't think it'll do him any harm. I don't think he's got a long-term future at Spurs, but you never know what could happen in the near future.
Okay, fair enough. Wynnie, what do you make of Mason's short period towards the end? Saw us at the end of the season. Ended up finishing 8th in the end.
Yeah, it's just a weird. It's like a weird kind of relationship that we have with Mason. He's just like that weird ex that, like, when things go wrong, you just end up falling back into just because it's safe and because it's you bring those feelings back. It's just weird. I'm not disappointed whether he stays with Ange because he's been loyal to Spurs. He's been there when we needed him to try and offer some kind of stability, if that's even possible. So if he wants to stay on board and Ange wants him to stay on board, then yeah, I'm all for it. But I think just for his own personal development, he does need to go elsewhere, whether it be Championship, League One, maybe League Two. You stay within the English Football League for sure. But for his own personal development, I think he needs to do that. But I mean, there was nothing he could do really in the short spell that he had that could have done anything credible. There was nothing he could have done. I don't think he could have propelled us into the top 4 or anything more drastic than that. So it was, again, like, the analogy I used is perfect for it. He's just someone there that we just fall back on when we need him. So again, we'll see what his future holds, but for his own development, he needs to fly the nest.
Hollie, what do you make of Ryan Mason's short period towards the end?
Yeah, like I said, he just needs to go learn his craft. Wynnie said the same thing as well. I think he just needs to pack his bag, and like Wynnie said, like, he has given some stability, but he just needs to go. He needs to have that little fly of the nest, go be that little bird, and go and learn else other than Spurs.
Yeah, fair enough. Wes?
Listen, I am of the opinion that Ryan Mason is likely to become a Tottenham manager one day. I think the way he comes across in the media is brilliant. I think he has a really good relationship with players. I think it was Kulusevski done an interview and he said, like, yeah, we like and we respect him because he's, been where we are not that long ago. So I think he's got that real empathy for players and, what they're potentially going through at difficult times, and things like that. This notion that he has to go away and do something and go somewhere else, I think that's quite subjective because I think it depends on him and what he wants. And I think he wants to be at Tottenham. He, had probably opportunities to go anywhere else, and has probably had offers to go anywhere else, but he has stayed at our football club because he believes in himself to be at Tottenham and he wants to succeed at Tottenham. Do I think it's probably better for him to go somewhere? I mean, you could argue there's arguments for and against, because I think if you look at players or ex-players that have done that, for example, like a Gerrard and a Lampard probably even more so, it hasn't really worked out for him going elsewhere. And yeah, I think, like I say, I think Mason will end up being a Tottenham manager one day. I just don't think it's now. And I know there was the question of should he actually get the job on a permanent basis. I think the first time round was way too soon. This time round feels a bit too soon. But who knows? Touch wood if, Ange, with Big Ange, it all goes according to plan. But if not, it could be a potential option for us, I think, only probably because we've exhausted all the other options that we've got available to us. But yeah, I quite like Mason. I think there's definitely something there with him. But yeah, I don't know if it's just yet. But like I say, I think one day he will be a Tottenham manager. And I think, I know Luke mentioned there about the styles that he's coached under, but if you actually watch his teams, they're probably the complete opposite of that. So I think he's somebody that knows what he wants from his teams, what, his playing style, his whole philosophy, his ideology. He seems very, very headstrong, and seems very, very passionate about wanting to do well for Tottenham. So I don't think anybody could really complain about that. And yeah, I think there was games at times where, you're looking at it and going, probably should be getting a result there. You look at Brentford at home in particular, as one game that really stands out. Trying to get the Liverpool one over the line as well. I think perhaps in game sometimes substitutions weren't always great, but I think for him it's a learning process, and I think he will be better for it in the long term. And yeah, like I say, I fully believe he'll be a Spurs manager one day.
Okay, thank you for that, Wes. And we're going to end on a positive, which hasn't happened a lot with Spurs this season, but it has to be done for now. While Spurs aren't playing, it's a good time to be happy. So I want to know, starting with you, Luke, your best moment of the season, if there is one.
Oof. Jesus, best moment of the season.
Yeah.
Probably I would say Harry Kane's record goal against Man City. It's probably a really easy one and a cliche answer, do you know what I mean? And a cop-out answer, but probably that's the best moment of the season, I would say.
Sadly, I can't disagree with you on this one. Winnie, your best moment of the season.
That's a question to throw on someone just like that. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, for the sake of it, I'm going to say the moment that Kante was sacked. Only because I will thank him for his service, and he did do well for us the season previous. However, everything was just so negative at the time, and we needed a fresh start. And I think that now has hopefully going to transform us into the Tottenham Hotspur that we love. So I'm going to say the moment that Conte was
okay. Okay, fair enough, Winnie. One thing I will say to you is that we're in a better position before Conte was sacked than we ended up finishing at the end of the season. That's all I will say to you. Hollie, what's your best moment of the season?
So there ain't many, to be honest. Every week I felt it was a therapy session. So if I can try and cast my mind way back to the start of the season, I don't really know. Maybe it's going to sound really cliche because I'm really bad with my memory, and I probably should be still really bad with my memory. The amount I consumed on the last day of the season, and I know we lost, but to see Harry Kane score some sort of free kick will go down in my short-term memory because it's been a long time coming for that man to sort of score a free kick. So I will take that. But yeah, in terms of other fixtures, it's all merged into one because supporting Spurs, we laugh and we joke, we say we're Spursy, we say it's a roller coaster, but my word, this season has been mental. And my capacity to remember anything has gone out the window.
Fair enough. Where's your moment of the season?
Yeah, I'm going to go completely left field here, and I'm going with Bournemouth away. For a couple of reasons. 2 late goals, limbs in the away end, and the fact I ended up on Match of the Day because of it. It was a personal highlight. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The first sort of hour was horrendous. And we've made Kiefer Moore look like an absolute world beater as a centre forward, even though he's a donkey. But also we heard the birth of a chant for Emerson Royale that day because he cleared Bournemouth's ground from about 12 yards. But yeah, I think, credit where it's due on that particular game. Conte made 3 subs and, it all came to fruition in the end, changed it tactically, and, we ended up winning the game. Like I say, 2 late goals, limbs in the away end, and an appearance on Match of the Day. So, yeah, I'm going with that one.
Okay, fair enough. My moment of the season, I have to agree with Luke on this, is when Harry Kane broke the record. I was there myself against City, and it was a great feel, a great day. Is when Stellini, I think, stepped in when Conte was having that gallbladder surgery over in Italy. We just beat City. It was fantastic, but sadly, we didn't know what happened after that because we got knocked out both the FA Cup, Champions League after that, and lost 1-0 to Wolves. But no, at the time, it was a great highlight. I pretty much think that's it for today's show, this end of season review. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, and go check out the competition, the giveaway if you like, for the new home Spurs shirt that was released in the week. You can be one of your first ones to get your hands on it. So go over to check us out, Park Lane Podcast on Twitter. Free. You just have to follow the steps. But Luke, where can people find you? For people who don't know.
Yeah, they can. If they want to follow me on Twitter, they can. It's Luke_Park Lane. But more importantly, just want to thank everybody that's ever been on this channel this season. We rebranded, and we started off just with me and Dave, and we worked our way up. We grabbed Winnie, thanks to a lovely DM, and then we grabbed you on as well, Harry. So just want to thank everybody that's ever been on. Wes was on one of the first ever watch-alongs that we did. And Hollie put me in touch, and we ended up losing Dinamo Zagreb that night. But last week he was on the show, the first ever show that live show that hit over 1,000 views. So just want to thank everybody that's been on, and Hollie's always supported us on this channel. So just big up to everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe to everybody here, and bring on next season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Winnie, where can people find you? Great to have you on again.
Yeah, Winnie1991 on Twitter, obviously on Park Lane Pod every week if I can help it. What I will say is, like, everyone on the show today, just if you don't already follow and subscribe, just hit everyone up, because we're one big community and we all just love Spurs. So, but yeah, check out the competition we got going as well, and hopefully you can all tune in next time.
Absolutely. Hollie, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you?
No, like I said, thank you for inviting me on. It's quite nice not to be the host and stressing about writing questions and stuff. So it's quite nice to be here with you guys. And like I say, you can just find me at Hollie Agmobar. But keep up the show, guys. It's good work. And we're all here for each other. We're all Spurs fans. We all have the same pain. But like Luke said, hopefully next season with Big Ange, we can smile a little bit more again.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Where I know this is always a long one with you, but where can we
Right, here we go, gents.
Ready.
Ladies
Let me
and
get my
gents.
checklist. Hang on, I need to get it up.
Yeah, please do, Hollie, because I'm probably going to forget something. Right, here we go. Twitter at Wezo10. I claim to be the unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. I even tweeted about him yesterday.
You did?
But yeah, he is literally my GOAT, the greatest of all time. So yeah, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account on Twitter. Instagram is Wezo32. You usually see me either at Spurs or another football ground. I tend to go quite a bit, which is probably why I end up potentially seeing things a little bit differently to other people, but that's absolutely fine because we all have our own opinions. And then I have my own podcast, which is taking a bit of a break. Just because I'm a bit busy, really. But yeah, WM32 Football Podcast, chatting all things football with different football fans and coaches, up and down the country. I also run my own football coaching business, which is Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK, across all social media platforms, apart from Twitter, I believe. But yeah, that, I believe, is it. And that is a wrap.
Yeah, it's always a long one. Thank you, Wes. So go check all these guys out on socials and subscribe to channels as well, because like we are one big community here at Spurs. For me, you can find me there, my Twitter handle, HarryScarf22, and also my channel, Scarfy Spurs. All the shows have taken a short break, but are back 4 weeks earlier than I originally expected. We're kind of reversed that decision. They're back on Monday, the 3rd of July. Because they're quite popular and went well last season. So June is the break, and it'll be back in July. But most importantly as well, like and subscribe if you're new to the channel here at Park Lane Podcast. And yeah, join us next week. Will be interesting. I'm sure we'll dive a bit more into new manager Postecoglou. But thank you all. But as we always say on this channel, and most other Spurs channels as well, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.